Hello, and welcome to another RWBY fanfiction reading. And this time it's the RWBY Beach alternate universe story, or something like that, by Bai524. Made this. Man, that was very, very efficient speaking there. But you can see the author right there, so I don't have to say it. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's complete yet. I don't think it's been a while since I've read most of these stories. The first time I have read them before, but it's been a while, so oh boy. I don't exactly remember what happens, so we might be having some issues. But that's to be expected. Hand, so I don't know if there's any weird things going on. Okay. Glad that starts at the Glad that starts at the beginning. Anyways, saving and surfing. Almost Almost every day, a blonde-haired surfer girl would come to the beach. Blake, who was a lifeguard, would usually watch her surf whether it was her shift or not, either that or reading. But the blonde was usually flirting with other girls and a few guys here and there, if not surfing. They haven't spoke before, only exchanged quick glances, but Blake was feeling confident to ask her if she wanted to hang out sometime. I'm going to do it. I'm going to ask, Blake reminded herself as Weiss went to I was going to mess it up again. Switch shifts. Jeez, for a while. The blonde sometimes came with her sister, Ruby. They spoke a few times, though she never said the blonde's name. Then again, it was when Ruby almost drowned when they spoke, which was happening now. It was Weiss' shift, but Blake was the closest. She sighed, ran through the shallow end, and swam into the deepest end. Ruby was shouting for her sister, who Blake learned is Yang, but Blake was already halfway there by the time Yang got in the water. You should really come out here with your sister, or learn how to swim, Blake laughed after helping Ruby out. Heh, yeah, I guess I got carried away. Again, thanks, Blake. Ruby thanked once they got to the point where Ruby could stand. Hey sis, Blake saved me again. She shouted upon Yang reaching them. I apologize for my sister. She can be kind of careless sometimes, but thanks, Yang joked. Hey, I'm not careless. Okay, maybe sometimes, Ruby muttered. The blonde laughed. So your name's Blake, huh? I've seen you around. Yang ruffled Ruby's hair. So I've seen you checking me out surfing. Care to try it? You seem pretty interested. Blake blushed slightly, taking her words into a different perspective. Oh, yeah, I'd like to try it sometime when I'm off duty, I guess, she mumbled. What about later or tomorrow? I can give you a lesson if you're free, Yang offered with a smile. Blake had to think if she could get Weiss or someone else to cover for her a bit longer, considering it was already afternoon. Sure, today works. I'll have to see about tomorrow. Great. I'll get you a surfboard soon. I'll meet you at the food stand later. Yang spoke, swimming back to the sand. It's hard at first, but you get used to it after a few tries. Anyways, I'll see you around. Thanks again, Ruby said, running after Yang. Blake walked over to Weiss, who was reading a magazine. Weiss, could I ask you... So finally talked to Yang, huh? How'd it go? Weiss responded, now looking up at the ravenette. That's not probably the correct words to put there, but... Oh yeah, she said she's gonna give me she said, oh, whatever, surfing lessons later, and probably tomorrow. I was hoping you could cover for me for half an hour longer, Blake asked, giving her a pounty. Okay. Howdy, kitty face. Weiss sighed. Fine, but you owe me. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Blake said, pulling her friend into a hug. Yeah, she replied, pulling away. But you owe me. I want to talk to Ruby. Do you think you could maybe push her off the surfboard or something so I could save and talk to her? Weiss asked, her face a slight pink. I mean, that is a good way to do that. Oh my god. Alright, whatever. Well, I'm not going to push her off the surfboard, but she'll probably try to swim in the deep end again while Yang's teaching me, Blake muttered. I see. Alright then, I'll take your shift again. Good luck with Yang later. You should go inside the locker room for a bit and put a sunscreen on. You're looking kind of sunburnt, Weiss suggested, picking her magazine back up. Thanks, and will do, Blake replied before walking to the locker room. Alright, lessons. Okay. That's been a nice 6 minutes. Let's move along. Slight time skip. The beach was almost empty by now, since it was late in the day and the sun was going down. After a while of Yang teaching Blake how to stand and swim while keeping her body on the board, they decided to go catch a wave. Like this, Blake asked in a standing position approaching the wave, or a wave. Yeah, man. You're a quick learner, now just follow my lead, Yang replied, keeping her balance. The wave hit the two, Yang easily breezed through it. Blake made it through until the end. She slipped off the board, but she swam back to the surface, Yang extending her hand to help her onto her board. I mean, just the grammar it's so like, ah! I just like, the grammar is just like, why? Okay. Blake smirked and pulled Yang into the water. They laughed once they had a hold of their own board, swimming back to shore. As expected, when they went to surf, Ruby went to the deep end just as they got to shore. Blake, help, Ruby shouted. Weiss threw her magazine on the ground running, then swimming over to the younger girl. I gotcha. Sorry, Blake's off duty and I didn't want her to worry again. Oh, are you Blake's friend? Ruby asked now in the shallow water. Yes, I'm Weiss. You're Ruby, right? It's nice to meet you. Weiss smiled brightly, something she didn't do very often. How'd you know my name? Did Blake tell you? Well, I guess when you almost drown a few times, you hear things. Oh, yeah. Looks like they're getting along, huh? Yang smiled at the sight of Ruby and Weiss talking, and Ruby acting flustered. Yeah, Weiss is pretty happy to want to talk to Ruby. Maybe she could teach her how to swim tomorrow. Oh, it's getting late. Shouldn't you be heading home? Blake asked, looking at her waterproof watch. Yeah, if I bribe her with cookies, the blonde joked. Home? We don't have to be home at a certain time in the summer. Yeah, Ruby and I live by ourselves. Our dad is busy most for just two girls. Just turned. They returned the surfboards and were heading into the locker room. Weiss is my roommate, so I'm sure she won't want to stay at our small apartment alone. So sure, if you don't mind waiting for a bit as we finish up a few things first, the Ravenette explained, grabbing her bag of dry clothes and a towel, and going into a stall to change. As did Yang, she took the stall beside Blake's. After changing, Yang stood on the platform meant to set stuff or sit down on to look over at Blake in her stall. I don't mind, plus Weiss and Ruby still have to change too, so that'll take some time, she replied, laughing as Blake's wet top was thrown in her face. Hey, Blake flushed. Good thing she had her towel wrapped around her. Hopefully Yang didn't see Blake actually taking her bikini off. Already, it's getting ridiculous. stalls. Hey, Weiss, she looked over to her soaking wet friend. I'll go tell Pierre that we're heading out. Looks like Ruby tried to swim back out in the deep. Yang took a seat on the bench outside the stalls, laughing at the two. Did you really try to stop Ruby from going into the deep? That's a mistake. Well, I know that now, Weiss mumbled, grabbing her bag from a locker and went into a stall to change. Ruby grinned. Yup, she took dry clothes from Yang and also went into a stall. So, Weiss, would you mind staying at our place for the night? Blake said you wouldn't mind, the blonde asked. I guess not, Weiss replied from inside the stall. Sleep over, Ruby shouted. Blake came back just as everyone was dressed and ready to head home. So I'm guessing you're alright with staying over their place? She asked Weiss, who nodded in reply. When Pyrrha said Oh, and Pyrrha said her and John would... Oh, God. Jeez, what have I done? Okay. Oh, and Pyrrha said her and John will take our shifts tomorrow so we can have some free time. Alright, let's head out, Yang says as they walk through the sandy beach and into the town. The cat's out of the bag. Jesus. Isn't that a wonderful title? And I don't remember the significance. Whew. Need to get a drink or something. Jeez. Anyways. God, there's like 10 chapters of this thing. Oh, God. Fine. Jeez. Why do I yawn so much? I don't really understand. Anyways, now that we've wasted more time, they arrive at the apartment building that looks surprisingly nicer than others. Yang and Ruby fall onto the bed below from just the supportive rope. And the others are just two beds with books stacked between the legs. So exactly like the Team RWBY dorm room, but, completely pointless and doesn't totally make sense. It's not much, but it's affordable, Yang shrugged. Sorry, my bed's kind of messy, Ruby spoke, getting onto the bed that's supported by a rope. It's alright. So who can sleep where? Blake asked, kind of hoping not to be placed under Ruby's bed. What about Weiss can sleep on the bed under Ruby's and Blake can sleep on the one... Also, I hope you don't mind pets, the blonde added. Oh, yeah, it's why. God, I was saying it right, and then... Oh, come on. I did it again. Man. Oh yeah, it's why. Here, boy. Ruby making noises to call for their dog, who was sleeping under the bottom bunk. So I went over to Blake to smell her unfamiliar scent. Blake made a small eat before jumping into Yang's lap. Sorry, I just don't like dogs that much. I'm more of a cat person. Literally, Weiss added as she went over to pet Zwei. Yang laughed. It's alright. Sorry, I didn't know or else I would have had Penny dog sit. Also, literally, the blonde raised an eyebrow to the girl on her lap. Blake blushed slightly. Weiss just couldn't have kept... What? Weiss just couldn't have kept her mouth shut. Okay. She hesitantly took off her bow that she rarely takes off to reveal cat ears. I know I'm a freak. Whoa, awesome, Ruby and Yang say, amazed by Blake's cat ears. You're not a freak. You're perfect. Oh. Yang smirked at her bad pun, hoping it made Blake feel better. The Ravenette gave Yang a slight push and pouted, but gave a small smile. Used to it, Ruby laughed nervously before Weiss to come over to her bed, which Weiss hesitantly did so. Can you kind of move for a minute just until I change? Then you can move back if you want, Yang said jokingly with a wink. Blake nodded and moved in reply. She needed to change too. Weiss was in the corner changing, glaring at Ruby when she threw her dirty shirt on her head. She threw her shirt directly at Ruby's face, causing her to fall off the bed almost to the floor if it weren't for Weiss catching her. Ruby blinked a few times before realizing Weiss caught her. Weiss saved me, Ruby laughed, hugging the girl. Weiss sighed. You should be more careful when you're on the top bunk, you dolt, she mumbled, putting Ruby down on the bottom bunk, sitting down beside her. Well, that was a close one, Blake muttered while searching for a book that she had in her bag. I could have landed it if Weiss hadn't caught me, Ruby argued, earning her nervous laughs from the others. She pouted angrily as she went to shut off the lights and go back onto her bunk. Weiss stood on the bed she's supposed to sleep on to face Ruby, who puts her head under the covers. She moved them back up for a moment, causing Ruby to hug her once again and mumble a thanks before going back under the covers. Weiss smiled and lied down on her bed before quickly falling asleep. Is she all right? Blake whispered, returning her book now there's no light for her to read it. She'll be fine. She's just tired and embarrassed, Yang replied, laying down on Blake's bed. You're moving back? Are you moving back? The blonde asked the girl, patting a spot on the bed next to her. Blake hesitated momentarily before joining Yang. She never would have imagined sleeping in the same bed as the girl who she just formally kind of met on the same day. She turned onto her left side, away from the blonde's face. Yang sighed. She had admired the girl since she first saw her at the beach. She didn't imagine them becoming friends as soon as they did. Hey, Blake, she whispered. The Ravenet replied, stiffening a bit. Can I feel your cat ears, or is that uncomfortable? Yang asked, feeling a bit strange, but she was curious to know if they were actually real. Blake turned to face Yang, showing her she was allowed to. It wasn't uncomfortable unless somebody pulled them to see if they were real, which some have done in the past. Blake relaxed, moving closer to Yang, and purred by accident, her eyes widening in embarrassment. Sorry, it's just relaxing, I guess, the Ravenet mumbled, her face a slight red. She pulled back a bit and avoided eye contact. I thought it was cute, Yang muttered, pulling the girl closer, enough so that Blake wasn't able to avoid her gaze. She lightly put her hand on Blake's face. Listen, you're not a freak. We're your friends, and we accept you as you are. There's no need to be embarrassed about who you are. Blake stared into Yang's lavender eyes, knowing she's someone she could trust. The Ravenet wrapped her arms around the blonde. Thank you, Yang. You're a great friend. And in a catastrophe, crook of Yang's neck. She didn't want to let go of Yang. She was too comfortable, safe even. She purred, drifting off to sleep, as did Yang. She fell asleep with an arm wrapped around the girl. Okay. I guess it's probably gone on for long enough, despite how I've only gotten done with like 3 chapters, but apparently I'm a slow reader. I don't know, or maybe just the stories at the beginning were a little bit shorter than some of the stuff that's right now, but maybe I'll try to pick up the pace a little bit for the next bunch of chapters. So we'll see what happens. And yeah, that'll be it for now. Next time, Chaotic Morning.